Hello, my name is Jessie Fletcher. I am a yoga teacher, Ayurvedic consultant, and a current graduate student at Naropa University. Today, I am going to talk to you about the all-pervasive nature of prana. Understanding and working with this principle enables a deeper, more effortless meditation. But before I begin, I want to express immense gratitude for the teachers who have guided me in the studying of this subject, as well as the practices that I'm going to present to you after this short talk. Most especially, I want to thank Dr. Vasant Lad, as he instilled my love of pranayama. So let's begin. So what is prana? Well, I can start by telling you what it's not. It's not the breath. The breath is something finite, and prana is eternal, ever-present, expansive. It's everywhere. It's in everything. Prana is the hum within and around us. It's the activity. Rajiv Malhotra actually categorized this prana as a Sanskrit non-translatable, meaning that it has no neat English equivalent. Thus, he breaks the word down into its prefix pra and its root un, pra being that which gives rise to life and un being to breathe. He quotes the Chandogya Upanishad, which states that prana is that which breathes rather than breath itself. Prana is the activity. In a ghee lamp, it enables and maintains the flame. Without prana, there is no movement, and thus there is nothing. Prana is that link between body, mind, and soul. It is responsible for carrying life into the body and consciousness into the mind. Prana is the bridge between consciousness and matter. It is the spanda or pulsation that was created in the union of Purusha and Prakriti. Prana is also comprised of two elements, air and ether. The air, being the grosser of the two, has the qualities of dry, light, cold, rough, subtle, mobile, and clear. Ether, being formless, the much more subtle of the two, only has the qualities of clear, subtle, light, expansive, and ever-presence. These are all qualities of consciousness. Now, the reason why I bring up the qualities is because when working with something, understanding its qualities enables us to have a more intimate relationship with that something. Consciousness is ether. Ether is consciousness. But ether is also known as space. They're synonyms. They share the same Sanskrit terminology, akasha. Now, space is the container within which matter is the content. However, we have space within us, which it has its content. Now, this is a macro-micro relationship. We are both content and container. As such, limiting ourselves to only material experiences and conceiving ourselves as purely matter constricts our consciousness. This constriction gives us an illusion of order in an otherwise chaotic world, but in reality, we're suffocating. Prana is the link between consciousness and matter. We talked about that. But as such, it is the link between the container and the content. Through understanding and working with prana, one transcends the material and is capable of incredible expansion. This expansiveness that I am describing, it can be intimidating. It's likened to the void. But within this void is everything. Within this vastness, there is space. There is peace. There is bliss. So what is prana again? Well, Dr. Vasant Lad of the Ayurvedic Institute shares this beautiful sutra. Let's just take a listen. Don't try to break it down or analyze it. Just listen. Listen to the way he presents it. Listen to his emotion.
That's why this sutra is very important. I'm repeating so that one day you will wake up at midnight chanting this sutra. Yanta pravi प्रविशमम वाचमिमां प्रसुप्तां सञ्जीवयत्यखिल शक्तिधरः स्वधाम्ना अन्यां च हस्तचरणश्रवणत्वगादीन् प्राणानमो भगवते पुरुषाय तुभ्यम्. Oh prana, I salute to thee, I prostrate to thee. Because of you, I'm existing, I'm here.
All right. So what Dr. Lad has shared is from the Bhagavata Purana. It's a text that is non-dualistic in its ontology and reveres bhakti above all. In the sutra, he has shared that he is revering prana as the divine, which has entered into him. It has enlivened his senses and given him power of speech. The sutra itself states, "My dear Lord, you are all-powerful. After entering within me, you have enlivened all my sleeping senses. My hands, legs, ears, touch sensation, life force, and especially my power of speech. Let me offer my respectful obeisance unto you." The Kaushitaki Upanishad relates prana to the absolute. In Shloka 3.2, it states that life is prana. Prana is life. So long as prana remains in this body, so long as there is life. Through prana, one obtains, even in this world, immortality. Dr. Lon actually refers to prana as God, but God as generator, operator, and destroyer. Pretty clever. He also shares another sutra wherein this sentiment is expressed and the function of prana is more succinctly articulated. He states that prana is Lord indeed. It is the mother, the ruler, the creator of life itself and all activities. The functions of the senses, respiration, and pulsation, all of them occur because of prana. These functions are experienced throughout the day by way of prana's 5 actions. Now, we rarely notice these actions unless, of course, a problem emerges. Even in times of distress, one rarely turns their attention inward, but rather outward by way of the physical processes that they govern, meaning that, let's just say, you're constipated. You're not going to look inside of yourself and ask, what is happening with my prana? You're going to take something that fixes the symptom. But the root is prana. So what are these 5 actions? Well, what you have is prana present in the head and the heart, and it governs energy that moves out through the senses, but also in by way of inhalation. Then you have udana, which moves up and out by way of exhalation, but also by way of speech, and then higher intelligence. You have samana, which is present behind the navel, and it governs digestion, but not just digestion once the food enters the stomach. It starts from the moment you bring something in, and then that peristaltic action that pulls that something down through the digestive tract, that's samana. Apana is present in the pelvic cavity. It moves down and out. So all forms of evacuation of bowels, urinary tract, or even reproductive tract. And then lastly, we have Vyana Vayu or Vyana Prana, also Vyana Vata. They're called by all 3. Vyana is present throughout the body because it governs circulation and innervation. Thus espoused the pervasive nature that is prana and its control over all life processes, including activity of the material mind and the ever-present consciousness. It is even more understandable why this force must be known and worked with. So in the Nishvasa Sattva Samhita, Nyaya Sutra 4.130, as translated by Mark Singleton and James Mallinson, it states that prana we should conquer first. Once the prana is conquered, then the mind is conquered. And once the mind is conquered, the soul is calmed. In the Chandogya Upanishad, this particular sutra, also translated by James Mallinson and Mark Singleton, both of these sutras are to be found in their Roots of Yoga book. It states that just as a bird tied by a string, flies off in all directions, and on not reaching any other place to stay, returns to where it is tied. In that very same way, the mind flies off in all directions, and on not reaching any other place to stay, returns to the breath. For the mind is tied to the breath. So we've seen now that while prana is not the breath, it is linked to the breath because it is the movement of that breath. That perhaps the way we control prana might be through the breath. So through mindfulness of the processes governed by prana, we can start to change the qualities. We can start to tether it, control it. The moment we send attention to something, we begin to transform that something. So pranayamas, which are commonly referred to as breathing exercises, but the word itself means more to draw out or extend the life force. Pranayamas are our way of becoming mindful of the prana. But now I will say, and Dr. Lott is very quick to remind his students as well as his patients that this respiration, right, it's not just mechanical breathing. This is a spiritual process. He likes to say that the divine is breathing in every creature. And that when we sit and watch the breath, if we add a little bit of awareness, if we feel the touch of the air inside the nostrils, we can actually feel the divine breathing through us. So, moment to moment awareness, muhu muhu. This is what we do when we're breathing and we're trying to bring mindfulness into the breath. We are living moment to moment. And in between each of those moments, there are these brief pauses where time stops. Dr. Lott says that at these brief stops, the top of an inhale or the bottom of an exhale, that time stops. That all that remains is pure existence. At these stops, the divine is present and you are surrounded by love and peace. And by bringing awareness to these natural stops, you exist in the moment, fully present. Pranayama takes you to that dimension of life where you are the witnesser. It unfolds your divine nature, Satchitananda, truth, awareness, and bliss. Said so brilliantly by Dr. Lott. So before we prepare, let's recap. Prana is the link between the material and immaterial, consciousness and matter. Prana is space, subtle, clear, light, ever-present, and expansive. Prana is the absolute and divine within and around us. I like to say that it's our link within ourselves, our link to everything around us, and our link to others. Through observing and becoming mindful of prana as it moves in, out, up, down, around, and throughout the body, we can begin to control it, and thus control the mind and merge with supreme bliss. So in order to prepare to work with such a subtle principle, we need to prepare a space that is neither too hot nor too cold and free of wind. So no drafts and no fans. You need to elevate the hips just above the knees using a folded blanket or cushion. This will bring you comfort. Then have a seat and move around a little bit. You don't want to just sit and assume that first position that you take. Moving around helps to ensure that we're settled throughout the practice. Then close your eyes. Dive into the body. As you feel yourself drop into the space that is this body, that's when you know you're ready to begin. So our practice today will be a combination of pranayamas which are suitable for all individuals. But if at any point you need to back off, you can always use Soham pranayama, which I'll introduce first in our practice today. After Soham pranayama, which I'll explain at the time of our practice, we're going to do something known as preparatory pranayamas. And these do exactly what their name indicates. They prepare the lungs and the body for breathing exercises. Then we'll do Rechaka pranayama. Rechaka pranayama emphasizes exhale over inhale, so it tends to be very calming to the lungs and the mind. Then we'll move into Nadi Shodhana. And on Nadi Shodhana, we're actually going to do small retentions at the top of inhales. So where Rechaka emphasizes the exhale, during Nadi Shodhana, not only are we going to be working on balancing the solar and lunar sides of our body, we're also going to be working on emphasizing the inhalations to create a sense of lightness within us. And that'll segue into Ujjayi 2, which further produces a lightning effect within the body, lifting energy up to the head. Then we'll follow that up with Udgita Pranayama, which helps us to harmonize ourselves. It harmonizes our very being. It harmonizes our voice. It harmonizes the space that we are in. And then lastly, we'll do Brahmari Pranayama. Brahmari actually helps us to connect to the hum that is contained within the cosmos, it's contained within every space. Because remember, everything is a micro of a macro, right? Or a macro for a micro, constantly intertwined. So, without further ado, let's practice together.